Welcome to Retire with Purpose, a show specifically designed to help you maximize your financial confidence in retirement. Casey Weed is the CEO and Chief Visionary of Howard Bailey Financial, a certified financial planner and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's your host on Retire with Purpose.
Hey, I'm Casey Weed, and we believe in retirement strategies that are driven by meaning and purpose. Join us this week and every week as we discuss planning for your best retirement, pinpointing your purpose, building a rock-solid financial plan, and unpacking trending topics that could impact your financial future. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Retire with Purpose, the science of retiring with confidence, the art of living with purpose. This is your host, Casey Weed, joining me as he does every week, my good friend and co-host, Marshall Johnson, here with me.
Hey.
And we are here to discuss retirement with you. So if you are at retirement, in retirement, near retirement, or you're just looking for that coveted job optional status, you have found yourself a home. We're going to have a wide-ranging discussion today, talking about everything from financial wellness to index ETFs and index mutual funds, Social Security cost of living adjustments. What will that look like? Will it be enough? Can Social Security keep up? We're going to talk about RMDs and what do you do with those RMDs if you're going to continue to work? Do you have to take those required distributions from your 401k? And we have a special guest. We have my good friend Carrie Oberbrunner, author of Unhackable and CEO of Igniting Souls, coming on here in just a bit. But off the top, we're going to be covering an article that was one of the 4 articles we sent out to you as part of our Weekend Reading for Retirees email series. Every single Friday, we send out 4 articles on trending topics in the retirement planning space, all designed to keep you up to date on the latest trends in investing, income planning, tax planning, estate planning, anything that could affect your bottom line in retirement. We want to make sure that you are up to date on. If you'd like to sign up, all you have to do is head on over to retirewithpurpose.com, scroll right on down to Weekend Reading. First name and email will get you signed up. And we're going to highlight one of those 4 articles with you right now from CNBC titled 8 Ways to Invest Confidently in Retirement.
Hey, it's just a great article, and I think it's timely. You know, we just went through a choppy year where there were some downturns, big downturns. There was a big swing up. And Casey, it illustrates here and talks about in these key takeaways, you know, markets go up, markets go down. You need to have a solid plan. And I love this quote. It says, a financial plan is helpful when everything's booming, but it's critical during economic downturns.
Yeah, I mean, how many amazing investors do you know that crushed it from 2010 to 2019, right? Look at how good I'm doing. Look at this. Look at that. Everybody wants to beat their chest when things are going really well. And then, things don't go real well. They start hiding in the closet. They don't feel real good about what's going on when the market sees these major pullbacks and they start to realize, maybe I wasn't such a good investor as I thought I was. Maybe I was doing a little bit more gambling.
Right. Absolutely. And, some of the best, and it goes on to talk about the downturn that we saw back from February 24th to March 23rd. The S&P was down 34%, Casey Weed, from its high point in February. And I'm here to tell you that's a drop. 16 trading days, that is a serious drop. And it's going to cause many to have reservations or at least second guess whether they were really as good as they thought they were.
And there's some good truths in here about the market over the long term. I really like the charts that they had in here. I'm a sucker for a good chart.
Visuals, right?
And there were some really good visuals in here. And I think when we go through a year like we saw in 2020, I think there's good and bad to it. We go through a year like 2020 and you see many of these things have become true. Maybe you made a mistake back in March, you sold out, you went to cash, you didn't get back in, and then you come to realize that, the market recovers from these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the key
sometimes the next day, right? Next day. To that point, I want to make a really good point. If you Google the best and worst days on the Dow and Wikipedia, the second best day followed the second worst day. In 1929, you had October 28th, 1929, market was down 12.34%. On October 30th, the market was up 12.53%.
Yeah, if we miss those days, it's crucial that we don't miss those really good days. And the best days, as you said, they come right after these big sell-offs. And I think that's an important thing to recognize if you have a financial plan. If you're younger, you don't even notice these little blips, right? Or you shouldn't. If you're 25, you're 35, you're 45 years old, you're decades away from retirement, then you can endure these major pullbacks.
Sure.
We have these major pullbacks. You just sit on your hands and you keep investing. You keep dollar cost averaging in. You keep winning because when the market goes down, you buy more shares because it costs less. When it's more expensive, you buy less. And that's a good way to think about it over the long term. Now, when you step into retirement, it gets a little bit different. You step into retirement and now you need income. You need that money. You may not need all of it, but you need some of it every single month in order to sustain your lifestyle in retirement. And now those little blips, they feel like a lot more than a little blip.
Right.
And even if they come back, 2020 was a dangerous year in that the market came back so quickly, and we have this recency bias.
Right.
We think, well, the market came right back. It always comes right
Next
back.
time it's gonna
We
pop.
forget about what happened after September 11th. We forget about the Great Depression. We forget about the financial crisis. And I think there's something about this chart that is important to highlight. You look at this chart that they have in here saying, hey, despite market pullback, stocks have risen over the long term. Absolutely true. The long term is 1985 to 2020. So we're talking about 35 years of market history that's outlined in this chart. And yes, despite the dot-com bubble, the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the global financial crisis, Brexit, coronavirus, the market has continued to rise over the long term. But you could highlight some pretty damaging areas in here for retirees. So the dot-com bubble popped back in the 2000s. And it took a decade, right, to get back even. A decade plus two, really. So that is what they referred to as the lost decade. Yeah. And even if we look at 2008, it took several years for you to get back to even following that period. It didn't happen in a few months like we saw in 2020. And we have to remember that too. For someone that's in retirement, just ask yourself, can you go a decade without any returns in your portfolio? And more importantly, you might be able to go a decade without any returns if you didn't need income. So do you need income over the next decade? If you do, then you have to make sure that you have some funds set aside in a war chest to make sure that you can endure these periods of time.
Well, that's a good point. It leads right into one of their tips here about staying disciplined. If you've got a war chest, if you've got money that you can reasonably rely on to be there to take your income from, then you can go through these ups and downs. You can go through these corrections. They've got a lot of good charts here about, how much the market's returned after corrections in bear markets. And the studies prove that if you can wait it out and, as you mentioned, Casey, take advantage of some of these dips, if you've got cash on the sidelines, I think that's where people can be advantageous. But you have to have that war chest and be able to stay disciplined in the face of uncertainty.
Over the past summer, there were a lot of families that we met with that were very concerned with what was going on in the market, saying, hey, that really hurt back in March and back to even. I went out of the game, right?
That's good defense.
And there's one gentleman that I know that was a do-it-yourselfer for many years, managed his own investments at Vanguard, and he was in retirement for a couple of years before he came in. And when he came into our office, sat down in our conference room, we're talking about his current strategy, and he said, Casey, I just can't do this anymore. I can't take the risk. It came back after March, but I can't do that anymore. I need to get more conservative. I need to get out of the market. Now I've won the game. And I said, are you done investing? Is your timeline truly up?
Right.
And he said, well, no, I'm going to continue to invest. I said, but I need this money now. So, well, you don't need all of it, right? There is some money that you need now, and let's set that aside. Had we rewound the clock, went back to March, and had you had that war chest, had we set aside some funds that would have guaranteed your income for the next 10 years, no matter what happened in the stock market, would you be sitting in that chair concerned with what happened with the equities that you don't need for the next 10 years? He said, well, no, I didn't think about it that way yet. It was really about shifting that way of thinking, building some type of war chest. And there's a lot of different ways you can build a war chest. We went through several different solutions with him on how we can set some funds aside to ensure sure that no matter what happens over the next year, the next few days, or the next decade, that he's going to have enough income to last the rest of his life. And most importantly, not have the stress and weight of watching the market every day like he had been in the previous years.
Right. Makes it a lot easier to have that discipline when you know you've got that war chest and you've got the strategy set up. They go on to talk about other tips, maintaining diversified portfolio mix. Got a great chart here that shows, your upside may be a little bit more limited if you're disciplined and you've got diversification, but you're going to limit some of those downside losses as well. I think that's great, Casey, advice. Everybody's heard it before. Stay diversified. But the reality is that most people that we meet with that come through the door that haven't worked with us, for them, diversification is just owning 10, 12 mutual funds. Mm-hmm. But that is not true diversification.
Well, I think true diversification is outlined in number 7 here of this article from CNBC, which cites a Fidelity study saying, hey, there's 3 things that you need to have when you get into retirement. Fidelity suggests this layered approach. You need guarantees to ensure your core expenses are covered. You need growth potential to meet your long-term needs, your legacy goals, and you need flexibility to refine your plan as needed over time. You have diversification there. You have Social Security, you have pensions, you have annuities, you have multiple income streams. You have stocks that have been set aside for inflation and long-term needs. You have tax planning. You have longevity planning. You have a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. That's something to keep in mind, and that's what our process helps people with, is walks them through each one of these major risks, each one of these major concerns, these things that keep you up at night, these things that hold you back from spending money on things that you find enjoyment in, and on going on that vacation with your family, taking your kids and grandkids on a cruise. It holds you back on living your best life because you're not sure what's going to come next. But having a solid planning process solves that. Having a solid planning process that walks you through from beginning to end, what all those risks are, and ensures that each one of those risks are actually going to be covered as you step into retirement. Now you can let go and you can focus on where life's actually happening. Right now in life, there is life happening, and you're sitting here listening to this radio show going, oh, I need to figure out how to fix this. I need to figure out how to fix that. Instead of listening to us right now, why don't you pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll walk you through our process and make sure that you can live life in the present and stop thinking about the stock market. Stop thinking about what's going on in Washington right now and across the world, because you have a real financial plan. We're offering a complimentary financial review for the next 10 callers, where you can meet with an independent financial advisor on our team, either in person or through a video meeting from the comfort of your home. And we're going to help you determine how prepared you are to handle all these different retirement pitfalls that are on the top of your mind: inflation, healthcare, stock market crashes, rising taxes. In short, we're here to take the guesswork out of financial planning for you. It can take no more than 30 minutes. So for the next 10 callers that call right now, 866-482-9559, a comprehensive financial review with no obligation. 866-482-9559. Next up, we have questions from Brian in Columbia City, Ken in Wabash, and Cynthia in Huntington. We'll be right back, so stick around.
You're listening to Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson. This is Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson.
Welcome back to Retire with Purpose, the science of retiring with confidence, the art of living with purpose. This is your host, Casey Weed. Joining me, my good friend and co-host, Marshall Johnson, here with me to answer your questions. So if you have questions, we have answers. Just go on over to retirewithpurpose.com. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, it says, Ask Casey a Question. Type that in there. It's legit. We'll get you an answer back in no time flat. So what's keeping you up at night? What's on the top of your mind? Are you thinking about things that are maybe actively happening in your life? Maybe you're approaching required minimum distribution age. Maybe you have charitable contribution or legacy questions, beneficiary questions. Maybe the advisor you're working with said something recently and you go, that doesn't sound quite right. Or your neighbor said something you thought was kind of goofy and you want to prove them wrong. Go on over to retirewithpurpose.com. Throw your question right there, and we might answer it and bring it right here on the show if you would like us to. That's what we did with a few different individuals from this past week. We've got a question from Brian in Columbia City. And Brian says, can you explain the difference between an index mutual fund and a fixed index annuity?
Oh, Brian. Hey, that's a great question. I think, sometimes when people hear the word index and it's in both those descriptions, kind of go, it sounds the same, right? I got an index fund or an index ETF. And I got an indexed annuity. Well, the key difference there is one is a security and one is an insurance product. When somebody says an indexed fund, that is usually a type of mutual fund or an exchange traded fund, often referred to as a ETF, with a portfolio that's constructed to match the components of a financial indexed. Oftentimes, you may hear somebody say an S&P 500 index or a Dow Jones index or an NASDAQ. It's just a collection of assets that try to track the price movements of those specific indices. Whereas, Casey, an indexed annuity is a type of insurance product.
Mm-hmm. I think the key word there is fixed. Yeah, the key word is fixed. You've got an index mutual fund, not fixed, right? It goes up, it goes down. And there's a lot of different indexes it could track, everything from real estate to the price of gold to the S&P 500. And you get all the upside and all the downside. However, there's some cost involved there. So you're going to pay a fee inside the mutual fund. And so you're not going to get quite all the upside, not going to get quite all the downside, or you're going to get even more of the downside, I should say.
Because there's a fee. So if it goes down, you got the fee plus the losses, right?
Yeah. So with a fixed index annuity, they're going to track a variety of different indexes. It could be just tracking the S&P 500 without any cost inside of the S&P 500. You're getting you're tracking the full price movement of the S&P 500, but there's also managed indexes that they can track as well. And in today's world, there are literally hundreds of different indexes that a fixed indexed annuity could track. The difference being you're not getting any of the downside, so it's fixed. A fixed annuity pays you a fixed rate of return for a fixed period. So if you get a 10-year fixed annuity, you might get a 4% fixed rate of return for 10 years. It's a lot like a bond. It's just backed by an insurance company. And then you have liquidity. So you can take out 5-10% per year. With a fixed indexed annuity, rather than having that fixed return,
guaranteed
you
rates,
have the floor where you can't lose anything, and the returns are tied to an index and they lock in typically annually. And so you might have an S&P 500 index mutual fund that goes up 20%. If you had a fixed indexed annuity, maybe you're getting 40% in today's environment of the upside in that. So you're getting 8% to the upside. Maybe it's capped at 5%. And there's a lot of different types of indexes and fixed indexed annuities out there today. So you want to make sure you're working with an independent advisor that can find you the very best one. But again, index mutual fund, all the upside, all the downside, simply put, and a fixed index annuity, a portion of the upside and none of the downside. Those were actually sourced from equity-linked CDs originally. The bank wanted to deliver a product that gave the consumer more upside without any of the downside risk. And there are still these CDs out there today. There's also, funds that you can buy on, that are traded today that you can purchase that do very similar things. There's a whole world and a whole slew of new vehicles that are being produced every single day to match any financial goal that you might have in mind. There's not one that's good and one that's bad here. They just are, and you have to find the right tool for the job.
And wouldn't you say that a lot of these innovations and some of these newer products are really designed to kind of solve risk management, right? They're trying to figure out ways to buffer the market losses or to smooth out returns to help people be protected in retirement.
In retirement, the innovation is largely around retirement today. That's what you're saying. The most innovation due to the number of people that are retiring, the demand that's created there, but also due to interest rates being as low as they are today.
Right. And index funds can be great for young folks, right? A lot of people don't need a financial advisor. It's like they got 30 years to retirement. Just throw it in a few index funds and dollar cost average in and give us a call in 25 years.
But as you're stepping into retirement now, you may own a bond. I have a client that owned a ton of bonds before they started coming in, and they were all in bond funds, actually. So they own thousands of bonds, quite literally.
Right. Inside of
And he was not only earning about 2% in the bond funds, 3% in the bond funds, but if interest rates do go up, he would lose his principal.
Right.
And we said, hey, let's look at the bond market. So we put together a bond ladder as a proposal where, hey, we can probably get in that 2 to 4% range today with highly rated bonds. However, some of these highly rated bonds, they default every once in a while. So there is risk there. We can reduce the interest rate risk, but we can't eliminate the default risk. And we say, we can go to a fixed index annuity where we can get 3 to 6% without the default risk or the interest rate risk. And he said, well, why wouldn't I do that? And so we took a huge amount of risk off the table and increased overall returns by just looking at what's available in today's world.
Yeah, that's a big point, is looking at today's environment today, and there's education involved, making sure you understand what's right for you. Those are the biggest. That's the biggest part of the takeaway there. Next up, hey, we've got Ken in Wabash, Indiana. Thanks for your question, Ken. Do you think Social Security will be able to keep up with the cost of living in the future, Casey? Maybe.
Probably not. It can't, right?
Sure.
It's obvious that it can't because it's broke, right? The system's broke.
So two parts. I think there's two parts to that. Is Ken really asking, is Social Security still going to be there and be able to offer an inflation adjustment like it has historically? Or is he saying, will that historical inflation that they've been able to give, cost of living adjustment, keep up with his lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I do believe, first, if we're just looking at cost of living in retirement, period, we just start there. Dr. David Blanchett has the most cutting-edge research on this. He is the head of retirement research on Morningstar, also a guest on the Retire with Purpose podcast. Check it out. We had a conversation we did. You can check that out at retirewithpurpose.com. And we did a conversation around inflation and cost of living in retirement because his research shows that retirees have spending patterns, and the average retiree's spending is actually going to decline throughout the retirement. And they're going to be marginally, if at all, impacted by inflation over a 20, 30-year retirement. And I see that in our own practice. We've had clients that have worked with us for 20 years, and they're still spending the same, if not less today, than they spent 20 years ago. And that's because they're spending less than they were spending 20 years ago. Inflation did happen, but their spending patterns changed. So if we're just talking about inflation impacting you in retirement, Ken, I say no, it's probably not going to be a huge impact. But again, it depends on your spending patterns and how much you're actually spending today and what happens in the future and what type of coverages you have for things like healthcare. So take that into consideration when it comes to Social Security keeping up with it. Well, no, Social Security cannot keep up with it because the trust fund's going to be empty, by 2034, and they won't have enough to pay full benefits at that point.
Maybe 2032.
I think there'll be major changes, and I think one of those changes they could make is to cost of living adjustments and what they're actually indexing the cost of living adjustment to every single year.
Right.
Right now, they're using a cost of living adjustment that doesn't really relate to the spending of a retiree and how the retiree actually spends. That would be a change that they could make, and it would actually reduce the annual cost of living adjustment historically using an index for retirees, use it rather than the index for urban workers or the average American. So I see that as one area that could easily be reduced and not see as big a cost of living adjustments in the future, but I'm not sure that's really going to be much of a problem for the average retiree.
Yeah, and I think some people are going to be listening to that and go, holy cow, what does he mean? Look how expensive houses are today and cars are today, and milk and bacon, so expensive. But the studies have shown, and we've seen it in our clients' lives, that their overall spending does decline.
And I think it's a scare tactic by a lot of financial advisors to get you to invest more aggressively in order to keep up with inflation.
You need to be very aggressive to keep up with this, because bacon and egg, I have two grandmothers that are blessed to be in their 90s, and my one grandmother, I always tell the story, she wouldn't buy bacon last time I took my son up there because it was so expensive. And she's right. From the time she was a little child till now, it's increased tremendously, but her consumption has also decreased.
She's not eating a whole package of bacon anymore. Our last question comes from Cynthia in Huntington. I can answer this pretty quickly, Cynthia. Cynthia asks, I'm turning 70 this month and am working and plan on continuing continuing to work. I have a 401k at work, but also have an old 401k and an IRA rollover from a previous job. How can I calculate my RMDs? Good news, Cynthia, you don't have to calculate your RMDs. The Secure Act pushed back your required minimum distribution age to 72. So first of all, you've got a couple more years before you have to worry about those required distributions. And if you're going to continue to work past 72, if you don't make any changes, you will have required distributions on those accounts you have outside of your existing employer, which is why you may think about taking that old 401k and that IRA rollover and rolling it over to your 401k that you currently have with your current employer. Then you won't have to worry about those required minimum distributions after the age of 72 until you actually step into retirement. Great question, Cynthia. If you have questions, again, shoot on over to retirewithpurpose.com, drop your question right in there. And if you're ready for a more customized answer to what's going on in your financial life, we're offering complimentary financial reviews right now for you. For the next 10 callers, you can meet with an independent financial advisor on our team, either in person or through the video meeting, and we can help you walk through all of your questions, all of your concerns, and all of these things we talked about here today. In short, we're here to take the guesswork out of financial planning for you. Just call us right now for the next 10 callers, 866-482-9559, 866-482-9559, a comprehensive financial review at no obligation. Here is our question of the day. Among baby boomers still in the workforce, what percentage expect to continue working in retirement? We'll have the answer when we return.
You're listening to Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson. This is Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson.
Welcome back to Retire with Purpose, the science of retiring with confidence, the art of living with purpose. This is your host, Casey Weed, joining me, my good friend and co-host, Marshall Johnson, to answer our question of the day. Among baby boomers still in the workforce, what percentage expect to continue working into retirement? Is that 25, 40, 59, 65%? Marshall.
Woo, a whopping 59%.
59%.
60.
I think some would look at that and go, what do you mean they're going to continue working into retirement? It's a bit of a conundrum.
They're retired.
How can you work in retirement, then you're not retired? Hey, that's job optional lifestyle right there, baby. That just means we don't have to work, and that's retired. You know, when I speak to different people like that we're just going to have on here in just a minute, we've got Carrie Oberbrunner here, and Carrie is a job optional man, but he just went over the last 3 years. So he retired 3 years ago, and then over the last 3.5 years, he now has 40 employees.
Wow.
Right? In 3 years. He retired and built a new company, and he's living his best life. He's doing all the things that he wants to do, spending time with his family, and he's helping others. He's spending time in the church. Just an amazing person. And that's why I wrote the book Job Optional, because this is the new age of retirement. I actually interviewed Carrie Oberbrunner for the Retire with Purpose podcast. You can check it out at retirewithpurpose.com or on your iPhone. Check out the podcast app, episode number 189. And if you want to listen to it right now, you'll have to actually check out our Facebook page, which is Howard Bailey Financial's Facebook page. We always do our live interviews there before they actually hit the podcast streams. And that also, if you like our page, you get invited to ask our guests questions, just like Carrie here. He's an author, coach, speaker. He is an ex-pastor as well. For 12 years, he was a pastor, and he recently wrote a best-selling book called Hackable. He was first featured on the Retire with Purpose podcast back in 2018 on our very first episode.
He's a two-timer.
Yeah, and he spoke to us about his book, Day Job to Dream Job, and which is just a perfect book if you are getting ready to step into retirement and you want to have a dream job, you want to continue to work in retirement. Day Job to Dream Job is a great book to help you in a place where maybe you feel stuck today, you want more meaning, more direction in life and retirement. Great place to start. We're going to be offering his latest book here in just a minute if you stick around, Hackable. He sent us over a box of his book, Hackable. We're going to send those out until they're all gone. We'll tell you how here in just a moment. He discusses this book, which is largely about being unhackable. And, you know, rather than me jumping ahead and telling you what the book's all about, why don't we hand it over to Carrie here and let Carrie share what it means to truly be unhackable.
So the book in Hackable is saying, why is there this gap that exists between dreaming and doing, between ideating and implementing? And what it does is it says that that gap exists a large part because of technology. Technology, the average person touches, swipes, taps, clicks their phone 2,600 times a day. The average person has to make 35,000 decisions a day, 226 about food. And so this is why, Casey, we feel like in today's world, something called decision fatigue, where literally we start out with energy, but throughout the day we have so many thousands of micro decisions that at the end of the day we use words like, I'm running on fumes, I'm going on empty, I'm burnt out, I'm fading, energy terms. Well, the book on Hackable is all about how to reclaim your life through 30 daily missions. 30 daily missions over a month, but you basically create these missions to reclaim your life and your dreams so that you can stop getting hacked.
Isn't that good? So,
Man, that's good.
Well, so I pulled up my iPhone under my screen time app right now, just to see, how am I doing right now? Well, I averaged 2.5 hours of screen time in the last 3 days per day.
That's actually not bad, I don't think.
I have accumulated an hour and a half in my messaging app. I pick up my phone an average of 80 times per day, and my daily notifications, I get over 100 notifications a day. I've had 235 text messages in the last 3 days.
Wow.
Do you think I've been hacked a little bit?
I think you've been hacked, but actually I think your numbers are better than mine.
Well, they have improved. What I've started using is I use the app in there that restricts how much time you can spend in different apps and shuts down your phone at a certain time during the day. And so I highly recommend that if you're trying to become unhackable. But Kerry has 30 daily missions in his book Unhackable that you can implement right now. It's a course over 30 days to help you become unhackable. And he's going to share one of his favorite right now. He's going to share with us what day 17 is in becoming unhackable.
Urgency. Urgency is, I think, day 17. But what it basically says is that you need to create a deadline for your dream. And here's why. Because we call it healthcare or urgent care. Why is it called urgent care? Because there's a cost if you don't get seen medically, unlike just going into the doctor for a physical. Urgent care means there's a cost. And what we've done in our lives is we haven't created costs or deadlines for our dreams. We just say, oh, I'll get to that when I want to get to it. I'll get to it when it's important. And we never do. It's a lie. We are literally lying to ourselves. Jim Rohn called it the law of diminishing intent. The longer you wait to do something, the less likely you will ever do it. So right now, there's things in people's minds that are called open windows where they haven't made a decision. And it's literally like RAM on a computer, and there's too many windows open, and it's sucking their productivity. And so what I do is I encourage people to get a Post-it note, write down all the unmade decisions that they have, the smallest, the biggest, getting a landscaper, you name it. And all these decisions, they write them down, and they might have 30 of them. And these 30 decisions are literally grinding their subconscious all the time and slowing down their productivity. What you do is you put a poster up, and it says do, it says delegate, and it says dump. And you take these 30 Post-it notes, and under do, you put the ones that you want to do. Under delegate, Casey's favorite word, you put delegate. And under dump, you put all those.
Yeah. I mean, to me, decision fatigue is something I think about every single day.
So
I want to
real.
reduce all my decisions that I have to make throughout the day.
It's why all my dress shirts are white, because I don't want to have to worry about matching ties.
Well,
dress
that's
shirts.
something I'm working on right now. So I got the toothpaste figured out. I've got a toothpaste tube in every single drawer in the bathroom, so I never have to decide where the toothpaste is.
There you go.
Yeah, I've calculated how much time I'm wasting over my lifetime looking for toothpaste. I'm going to eliminate that. Now I'm working on the wardrobe right now. When I wake up, up and I want to know exactly what I'm wearing every day. So I'm just going to have like 10 outfits, and that's all that I wear from now on.
Love it.
Yeah. And the same thing is true with your financial life. I mean, what are the things that are weighing on you day in and
Should
day
I make
out?
a Roth conversion? Should I contribute to an HSA? Should I rebalance my 401k? I mean, it's all day long, every day.
And delegate those tasks. I delegate a lot of that to my team and Marshall here. To make, hey,
I love how he said delegate is your favorite word. That's good.
Yeah, I don't want to make those decisions.
That says that.
And there's so many of those financial decisions that weigh on you. And if you want us to be your who, and you can stop figuring out how to get those things done, give us a call right now, 866-482-9559. We can be your who. We can be the one you delegate those things to and clean up your plate. In talking to Kerry Oberbrunner, we also wanted to talk about purpose and his company, Igniting Souls. We talk here about how pain can be an accelerant to figure out your identity that can lead you down the path to your purpose.
Pain will make you jump the line a lot faster. In other words, when you go through pain in life, and I'm not saying it's always health, it could be emotional pain, but I would tell you that the area of your deepest wound is often the area of your biggest contribution. So where we've struggled in life often becomes a strength. When you break a bone and it's reset, it can actually become stronger. The strongest tissue in life is scar tissue. So pain, we know, creates strength. And this is where a lot of the generation or humanity in general, we don't want to hear that. But we were talking before we started the show, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me book. He went through a lot of pain, and everybody wants the crown, but nobody wants the cross. And you need to carry the cross to find the crown. And this is the difference between acute pain and chronic pain. Chronic pain is dumb, purposeless, always there. It's agonizing. It's a bummer. Acute pain is short, intentional, focused, and beneficial. So if I tear my shoulder and I have a torn labrum, I'm in chronic pain. To get that chronic pain fixed is going to cause more pain, which is surgery, acute pain, and then rehab, but I will get healed. And that's where Jim Rohn said it like this: there's two pains in life. One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. He said discipline and regret are two pains in life. One weighs ounces and one weighs tons. In other words, discipline is painful, but when you go through it, you will have strength and not regret.
So Kerry Oberbrunner is also the founder of Igniting Souls. This is a good segue from that segment into what it means to be a soul on fire and live with purpose.
So we were created with three questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? And this is why you and I connect so well, because who am I is identity. So most people start that with that question, who am I? Identity. Then once that question is answered, you then become other-centric. Instead of saying, who am I, and all your focus is on you, you then begin to say, who am I? Okay, now I know who I am, my identity. Now why am I here? So now you become all about purpose and your contribution in the world. Once you answer that question, who am I, why am I here? Then what you usually say is, I'm in the wrong job. I know who I am, I know my purpose, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because my parents told me, because I went to college, because this is what you do in the USA, whatever. Then that's where you become consumed with where you are. And so check it out. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Identity, purpose, direction. Where those three circles converge is a soul on fire. When you know those three answers, you become a soul on fire. And as Ferdinand Foch said, you're now the most powerful weapon on earth. And St. Irenaeus said that the glory of God is a man or woman fully alive. So I believe that is our best thing we can achieve in life, money's great. It should be part of it. But if you don't know your identity, purpose, and direction, you're going to be a lost soul.
Look, if you enjoyed that conversation with Kerry Oberbrunner, we've got a special offer for you today. You're going to love his book. We've partnered up with Kerry to offer his latest book, Unhackable, absolutely free to our listeners right now. The book is all about how to tune out unnecessary distraction and focus your energy on where you can make the biggest impact, with the end goal of helping you live a more purposeful, productive life. We have a stack of books here. Kerry sent over to us. We want to give them away until they're all gone. So claim your free copy right now of Unhackable by giving us a call at 866-482-9559, 866-482-9559. We'll be right back after the short break.
First-time callers are eligible to receive one in-stock book per request. Limit one book per week per household, up to 3 books per calendar year. See full terms at howardbailey.com/terms. You're listening to Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson. This is Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson.
Welcome back to Retire with Purpose, the science of retiring with confidence, the art of living with purpose. It's your host, Casey Weed. Joining me, my good friend and co-host, Marshall Johnson, to cover a weekend reading article with you. So if you like this article, this one is all about financial wellness, the hierarchy of financial wellness. Go to retirewithpurpose.com and check out the podcast tab, because we did a full-length conversation on this very topic for the Retire with Purpose podcast. And right there in the show notes, you can get a link to this very article, and you will also want to sign up to make sure you get all 4 articles moving forward. Every single Friday, we send out 4 articles on trending topics in the retirement planning space, all designed to help you make better decisions when you are on your way to retirement or in retirement. Again, retirewithpurpose.com. We're going to spotlight this article for you here, and it comes to us from the FPA, the Financial Planning Association. Does that sound like something your average Joe's reading? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
It sounds super boring. However, it is something that is super unbiased and can really help you. That's what you'll find is I'm including articles in weekend reading that I'm actually reading. These are things that are adding value to my life, and I'm reading them to not only add value to my life, but the families that we work with day in and day out. I want to become better, and that's why I like these articles, because you don't have to worry about sales jargon or somebody trying to give you some biased news, fake news. You're actually going to get something that can be of real value here. It's really designed here by Dr. Chris Hay.
Yeah, PhD, Chris Hay.
Yeah. And he is sharing a different way to think about financial wellness. He calls it the hierarchy of financial wellness. And it's a lot like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as I see it. I like to have a lot of different ways to think about my financial life, because some of them click, some of them don't, and you need to find the one that fits best for you.
Well, and the truth is that financial wellness is one of those buzzwords right now. And he alludes to at the beginning of the article, if you're playing financial jargon bingo, you definitely want to have that square, because it seems like every firm wants to talk about financial wellness, and it's a lot like value add and holistic planning, but we have to define what really is financial wellness. How do I get it? Am I close? Am I a mile away? It's really a great article.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic really did highlight the importance of financial wellness, thinking of it differently, because it's impossible for you to separate your financial health from your physical health and from your behavioral well-being. All 3 of these things, they're intertwined. There is something to the whole health and wealth discussion. Just think about the biggest threat to your financial security. You might be thinking, well, it's the stock market, it's Washington, it's rising taxes, it's the price of the dollar. Maybe you have all these different things. However, I think there's an important point that's made here in this article saying, as we get older, especially for retirees, as you get older, the biggest threat to your financial security, it's not the stock market, it's not rampant inflation, it's diminished decision-making capacity.
Yeah, it's us. It's the enemy within, right?
Yeah, that's it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's real scary.
You know, especially, and I think this is where I think about it like this in my own financial life. I mean, that's why I have a Marshall, on my side. Yeah, I am a do-it-yourselfer. I like to, manage, my own financial life.
Yeah, you have control over, we have this knowledge, but we have the control. But then when you think, well, what if I be...
Yeah, but do it yourself means something different to everyone. I'm not trading my stocks. I'm not trading my ETFs. I'm not managing my mutual funds. And, I am not managing investment portfolios, right? That is not my job. My job, I like to be my own financial planner. However, I recognize the value in having other people's input and a backup plan. I know that two heads are better than one. The first time I ever met with Marshall, he goes, "Do you think you should put a beneficiary in this account?" I go, "Oh, man, I thought I did." Right? I overlooked something. And I'd say I'm pretty good at this. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, retirement income certified professional, chartered life underwriter, right? I've got the education and the background to do a great job. But I want consultation. I want good coaches to make sure that I'm not overlooking anything and that every single potential gap is covered. But as I said, I could be disabled tomorrow. I've known individuals that are in my demographic, my age, that have become disabled. And where do they leave their family? It's one thing if you're not married, you don't have children. Maybe that's one thing. You're really just taking the risk for yourself. However, I'm putting my family's life at risk. I'm putting my children's life at risk by not having a backup plan and someone that's very aware of everything that's going on in my financial life and has been helping me make good decisions. I want that partner. I want that backup plan. And a lot of families come to us for that very thing due to that risk of diminished decision-making capacity. Not just when you're 95 years old.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
But potentially tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Diminished decision-making capacity stemming from cognitive impairment, impulsivity, loneliness, memory loss, anxiety, medication side effects, or physical discomfort can wreak havoc on personal finances and even torpedo the most well-balanced portfolio.
And we'll get into that a little bit more here. I looking at this, we all studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Food,
you got
shelter,
your period,
purpose,
you've got your pyramid, and it goes from the bottom, goes all the way to the top to your highest needs. And organizational wellness is the bottom line here. And I love that it's the foundation, right? We need to be organized. We need to be effectively managing our economic life.
Oh,
right?
I like that.
We have to have a well-organized and managed personal finances. I always go back to one of the most shocking experiences that I had early on in my financial advisory career. We're talking probably, I don't know, it was almost a decade. I guess that was a decade ago now. But back then, there was a couple that came into our office when we were back here in Constitution Hill Office Park. Marshall and I were working together at the time. Just started working together, and there was a couple that came in with a briefcase and 2 grocery bags. And I'm going, what's in there?
Yeah.
They just start the conversation with, "Hey, we need to show you something." I'm like, "Oh no." And they've got this whole, they've got bags
like
of
30
statements.
years worth
They've got
of
a briefcase.
Yeah.
Well, who even carries a briefcase anymore? They've got a briefcase full of statements and documents. And it took us years to sift through that. and did we get them a good foundation within 30 days? Absolutely. We had a good financial plan. But the thing is, statements kept coming in, right? Statements would come in over the coming years and they go, "Hey, I didn't realize we had this, didn't realize we had that." And we just continually got them more and more organized. How could you be well financially if you don't know what you have and where it's at? So you have to have that foundation, which is organizational wellness.
Yep. Organizational wellness, both quantitative and qualitative, managing, tracking expenses, being organized. It's all part of that organizational wellness. That leads us to physical wellness. They cite a Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Almost 80% of adults over age 55 suffer from at least one chronic illness, like diabetes, asthma, heart disease. And by age 65, that figure rises to roughly 86% of Americans.
And no wonder, we have healthcare concerns, right? Healthcare related events are the number one financial retirement fear today. It's no longer running out of money in retirement. 2/3 of all bankruptcies in the U.S. are caused by medical issues. And we have to ensure as financial planners that when you're sitting across the table from us, we're looking at the big picture here. We're looking at medical care, making sure that you have not only the right insurance in place, but you have your healthcare advance directives. You have long-term care. You have trusted individuals that can help you make good decisions about your healthcare. The next piece is cognitive wellness. So we have our organizational wellness, then we have physical wellness, now we get to cognitive wellness.
Yeah, a Harvard study concluded that the peak age for financial decision-making on average occurs at age 53.
I know. Good thing my dad retired around that time, right?
Well, it's just a scary thought. It's like, okay, so I'm diminishing cognitive ability from that point going forward. And this is where a lot of concerns arise. And this is with some of the clients and some of the families I've worked with. As some individuals age, they keep losing cognitive ability, and it starts to create really scary situations, especially for the family.
Yeah, and I think what I really like about this is, this kind of leads into behavioral wellness as well. But making sure that you have a plan in place with your advisor. You have an agreement with your advisor on what they should do if they suspect you're having difficulty making sound decisions. And I think that comes back to making sure you have trusted family members or friends who can help with those financial decisions, saying, hey, if you think that I am suffering, from mental incapacity or just diminished ability to make good, sound financial decisions, here's a list of people that you are allowed to call, and you can check in with them and ask what they think.
Yep. And most financial institutions today will allow you to add a trusted contact. Maybe they can even start to get statements on your behalf. This is a very difficult conversation that nobody wants to have, but having these difficult conversations, the problem with cognitive ability is it can go downhill quickly. It can erode quickly. There can be strokes. There can be things that occur very quickly, and this creates very difficult situations. Have those difficult conversations now. 20 minutes can save you a lifetime of regret.
And then we get to behavioral wellness. And we get to holistic wellness at the very highest level of the hierarchy of financial wellness. And you need to make sure you have all of these boxes covered in order to be truly financially well over your lifetime. And that's what we're here to help you with. We're here to help you through this process. You can get a link to this article at retirewithpurpose.com. Just check out the podcast tab and you'll be able to get a link to the article there along with a full-length discussion from us. And if you're ready to get the ball rolling, you're ready to get on the right track, you're in 2021 here and you go, boy, I want to make this my best year ever. Give us a call right now. We have a special offer for you where you have the opportunity to get a complimentary financial review. For the next 10 callers, you'll meet with an independent financial advisor on our team, either in person or through a video meeting from the comfort of your home. And we'll help you determine how prepared you are to handle retirement pitfalls like inflation, healthcare emergencies, stock market crashes, taxes. In short, we're here to take the guesswork out of financial planning for you. It can take just 30 minutes. So for the next 10 callers, the call right now, 866-482-9559, a comprehensive financial review we're offering with no obligation. That's 866-482-9559, 866-482-9559. We'll be right back here next week on Retire with Purpose.
You've been listening to Retire with Purpose, hosted by Casey Weed and Marshall Johnson. Investment advisory services offered through Howard Bailey Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Working with Howard Bailey Securities, LLC cannot guarantee investment success or that specific financial goals will be achieved. Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, Inc. owns the certification mark CFP and Certified Financial Planner in the U.S., which it awards to individuals who successfully complete CFP Board's initial and ongoing certification requirements. Howard Bailey Financial is a registered trademark of Howard Bailey Financial. All rights reserved. Information is not intended to provide specific legal or tax advice. Howard Bailey Financial nor its advisors are qualified to give tax or legal advice. You are encouraged to consult with your tax or legal professional for guidance on your individual situation. This radio show is a paid placement.